Hello everyone, Jamie Trull here, your favorite CPA and financial literacy coach. And today we're going to be wading into a slightly different topic. We are going to be talking about legal protections in business. Now I know, y'all know that I am #not a lawyer. So I have to caveat that here that this is not legal advice because I can't give legal advice anyway. However, as a CPA, a lot of people that I've worked with have questions that relate to the legal matters, and there's also a relation as well when it comes to finances. So I wanted to go ahead and speak on a few ways that you can protect yourself just from a general sense as a small business owner. So let's jump on in. Let's start talking about how to legally protect a small business. I have 4 different steps for you that will help your small business to stay legally protected. Now, you don't necessarily have to do all of these things. However, each additional thing can provide an extra bit of protection. So kind of putting them together can help you to have even more protection, but none of them give you 100% absolute protection on their own. So the very first thing that you're going to want to have to legally protect your business are contracts. Okay, you want to make sure that you have really well written contracts that cover all kinds of things that could happen. So it can be really helpful to sit down and look at other people's legal contracts, or maybe start with some legal templates and then think about what could potentially go wrong in your business. So we're talking about terms, we're talking about client service agreements, right? Anytime when somebody is contracting to work with you or buy something from you, you want to have some type of contract, whether that's one that they actually sign themselves or whether that's something that they sign essentially by hitting the terms and conditions button when they purchase something. You want to make sure that you have everything laid out and have really thought about what could go wrong. Because a lot of times with our contracts, I will tell you this by my own admission, sometimes we don't think about contracts until we get to the point where something happens. And then we realize we maybe needed to word something a little bit differently. So I'm talking about refunds, right? You want to be able to lay out exactly what happens in case of a refund or in case you are not paid, right? Or what happens if the service isn't performed. These are all things you're definitely going to want to have. And some of the things are actually legally required, like a privacy policy if you're collecting data. So you want to make sure that you have ironclad contracts, and you can work with a lawyer to do that. Or if you're just starting out, like I said, you can start with templates and you can customize them to your needs. If you're looking for that, check out the video I did last week with my friend who is a lawyer, Braden Drake, and he has a contract vault that is available for a ridiculously low price. A lot of people charge hundreds and hundreds of dollars for one contract. He has a whole vault of contracts that he shows you exactly how to customize, and it's $30 right now, y'all. So at the time that I'm recording this, it's $30. Go check it out, jamietrull.com/contract vault to see Braden's contract vault. It's the best fit for those of you who are service providers or perhaps in the event industry, or maybe you're an online business owner, something like that. Okay, so the second thing that you're gonna wanna think about having in order to legally protect your business is to become an LLC. So most businesses, when you first start them, if you haven't filed anything, you default to being a sole proprietor. That's fine, especially in the beginning of business generally. However, it doesn't provide any level of legal protection to you personally. If, however, you become an LLC, and that's something that you would actually file with your home state where you're doing business, right? If you become an LLC, that does give you some level of protection for your personal assets. Now, that's not going to stop anybody from suing you, right? However, if you have the LLC, if someone sues you and you're found to be liable, then your LLC can at least help you protect your personal assets like your house and your personal bank account, right? Now, there are some things to remember with this, and I have to say this as a CPA because this is something really important. I always talk about keeping business and personal separate. That's really important from just being able to read your financials and understand what's going on. That's really important for bookkeeping and taxes. However, it's even more important if you're an LLC to make sure that you're keeping those separate, because Otherwise, you may be in a position where you could be technically what's called piercing the corporate veil. And what that means is if that you're commingling your personal funds with your business funds all the time, then ultimately, if you ever did find yourself in court fighting something, that LLC protection might be invalidated because of the fact that you've been treating your business and your own personal finances the same. Okay, so that's something really important to think about. You don't just automatically get it. You want to make sure that you are doing the things that you need to do to keep that liability protection. Now, real quick, here's my little CPA note because I got to put this here in the middle. Remember, an LLC does not give you any tax benefits, okay? An LLC alone, without making any further tax elections, really only is a legal entity switch. Taxes are exactly the same. You file your taxes the exact same way on a Schedule C in your federal tax return, okay? So that's something that sometimes people ask me, what are the tax benefits of being an LLC? Well, generally there are none. However, if you are an LLC, then you are able to elect to be taxed as an S Corp. We're not going to talk all about that here, but I do have other videos, and we have more videos coming out soon to talk about this concept because I know it's one that people are really interested in. But ultimately, there can be, not always, but there can be some significant tax benefits associated with electing to be taxed as an S Corp. And you do need an LLC in order to do that. Okay, so just wanted to clarify that. That was my CPA note. Now we're going to go back to the legal stuff. Okay, number 3 thing you need to legally protect a small business is going to be insurance. Now, sometimes this might be optional, and sometimes depending on your profession, it might be required. Okay, so you want to look up what the requirements are for your specific profession that you are in, and there are multiple different types of insurance. So you don't want to just get insurance and assume that that protects you from everything, right? You might need certain specific types of insurance to cover what you need to cover. So, for example, there's general liability insurance. That may make sense if somebody could get injured, let's say, where in your place of business, and you want to be able to protect against that. However, you may not need that if you're the only person and you're working from home, right? So you want to think about your situation and what makes sense. There's also product liability, right? If somebody gets injured with one of your products or something happens that you're covered in that case, that obviously makes sense for product-based businesses. And then there's professional liability insurance. And as a CPA, this one is an important one. It's sometimes also called E&O insurance or errors and omissions insurance. So that covers a lot of our service-based professionals who need some insurance in case maybe they give bad advice or something happens and they need to be able to protect themselves against claims, right? So E&O insurance or professional liability insurance is a really good one to have as well. And then there are other ones like commercial property insurance. That's probably going to be required. It's kind of like having homeowners insurance, but if you have a commercial property. And then you have other insurances like workers' comp that you might be required to pay if you have employees. Or you might want to get business interruption insurance in case there is something that interrupts your business and it can help pay your ongoing expenses while you maybe have to shut your business. Maybe there's a natural disaster or something like that. Now, again, you really want to think about your situation and what type of insurance you could potentially need and really think about where your risks are, right? What could go wrong? I know we love to think as business owners that nothing's going to go wrong in our business, but if you're here, you're watching this, you know it is possible for things to happen and you want to be protected when they do. You do not want to learn this lesson the hard way, which is unfortunately what happens in so many instances. So think about what your risk is and maybe go and research some of the insurances. And a great place to talk to is to talk to other business owners who have similar types of business to you, especially if they live in a similar area, right? They may have some recommendations because, again, certain companies may specialize. For example, if you're a CPA, certain companies may specialize in error and omissions insurance for CPAs. So asking people in similar industries can be a really great place to start. And the fourth thing you might want to think about to legally protect your business are trademarks, right? Trademarks are something that basically gives you the right to use certain names. So whether that is a business name or a course name or something like that, maybe it's a process that you want to trademark the name of that process, right? Or just something that's unique to you, or even a podcast or a book. You want to be able to use that name and you don't want anybody else to be able to use it. Now, A few reminders on trademarks is that they're country specific. So it's only going to cover you if you're in the United States, then it would be a trademark for the United States that won't cover somebody in Europe, let's say. And it won't necessarily stop somebody from using the same exact thing, but you would potentially have legal ground to go after them and have them cease and desist using something that you have trademarked, okay? Now, you don't necessarily need to trademark. A lot of people wonder if this is an absolute must. And I would say no, not in all cases. You want to talk to a lawyer about whether it's something that makes sense for you. And I do recommend going through a lawyer who really knows trademarking if you're gonna go this route, because you also want to make sure that you're going in for trademarks that hopefully will get approved. And they can take a long time. And so you want to make sure that you don't apply for something that you're definitely going to get rejected on, right? So a trademark lawyer can help you search the database. They can help you figure out whether or not that's a trademark that you want to be going after. And another thing to remember too with trademarks that I learned when I went through this process is that oftentimes you will need to pick very specific categories depending on what you're trying to trademark, and somebody could still be using the same name, let's say, for a book, and you're potentially using that same name for a course, and those would be okay. You oftentimes have to basically say what you're going to be using that trademark for. And you do need it to be in use within a certain amount of time. So you can't just sit on trademarks, which a lot of people try to do, but you can't just sit on trademarks. If somebody comes and is using it before you, even if you hold that trademark, then they could actually have the right to that if you were to challenge them. So I do recommend, whether you decide to trademark or not, to go ahead and search that database and see what's out there. Again, remember that just because something may be trademarked for a specific use doesn't mean you couldn't use the same thing for another type of use, okay? So there you have it, 4 different things you want to look at. Again, those things are going to give you some level of legal protection on their own. Some combination of those is going to give you a lot of legal protection depending on the type of business that you have. So think about your risk, think about what's going to work for you. At a minimum, make sure that you have really good contracts in place, because that's a proactive thing. All the rest of these are more reactive, but contracts are proactive. You can put contracts together before something happens. Insurance and being an LLC will help you on the back end if something happens, but contracts are the things that are really going to set you up for success if you have a well-written contract. And like I said earlier, if you are in the market for contracts and you want really good legal contracts that you can customize, check out jamietrull.com/contract vault. Again, they are not my contracts because I'm not a lawyer. However, they're my friend Braden Drake's contracts, and they are really great and customizable. So go check those out. So I'm going to be doing more content on this. Again, we're going to have some videos that dive specifically into S Corps later on. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely keep watching and make sure that you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.